Hi guys, and welcome to this edition of Phyrefli's Video Digest. As always, thank you very much for listening. Now, the digest I put out last week was all about whether or not Dice's decision on mod tools was catastrophic for them. Not just from the point of view of being able to make new maps, but from the point of view also of making new mods such as Project Reality, Forgotten Hope 2, which are great BF2 mods. This seems to have prompted quite a lot of discussion in the community, and three main issues have arisen why that viewpoint might have been wrong. So what I want to do in this video is basically a continuation of last week's video, and to be able to take those 3 points, look at them individually and explain my position on them, and again how I've come to the conclusions. Maybe you think I'm right, maybe you think I'm wrong, but at least we're talking about it. At the end of the video, what I'm going to do as well is introduce a mod which, in honesty, I should have introduced last week. Specifically because this is a mod that's looking for people who are talented, but also looking for people who are enthusiastic, but may not yet have the skills. So if you're looking to get into modding and you're looking to try to get on that ladder, but you don't have any skill set yet, look these guys up. I'll give you the contact details at the end of the video. If you do join them, let me know how it goes. I'll be very interested to see what you produce, and keep me updated. So let's look at the first of the 3 issues that you, the community, have fed back from the last video digest that I put out. Now, the first, and in my opinion the weakest of the 3 arguments, is that if DICE release mod tools, nobody will buy their own DLC. And to be honest with you, the answer to that one is very clear. There were mod tools for BF2 and the earlier BFs, and yet DICE still released and sold DLC. Also, as Alan Kurtz has said himself, if DICE releases sufficient quality DLC, people will buy it. I know I would. Unfortunately, we don't have a choice at the moment because the only thing we're going to get is DICE's own DLC. We don't have the option of getting community-made DLC, mods, maps, etc. So in my opinion, this argument doesn't particularly ring true, because at the end of the day, if you've got some brilliant maps with some fantastic weapons and new vehicles and things, you'll buy the DLC. I know I did in BF2. I also bought the BF2142 DLC as well. So that's my opinion on that particular argument. Now, the second argument is, to the best of my knowledge, the one that's most rooted in fact, and that is that DICE have released or licensed several pieces of middleware to put into the Frostbite 2 engine, and because of those licenses, they're not then able to release mod tools because of the different agreements that they have with the different companies. Now, as I say, to the best of my knowledge, this is true fact. And you might turn around and say, well, in which case we can't have mod tools. But take a step back just for a second. I'll take the example of Crytek again. They've developed their engine from the ground up without middleware so that they can release mod tools. Why did DICE not decide to do that? It's not as if they don't have the money. It's not as if they don't have the developers. So why have they taken the cheaper, easier way out? When they decided to license that middleware, they took a very conscious decision at that point that there was going to be no mod tools. And you have to question their commitment to our community if a company like Crytek, and let's be honest with you, Crysis 2 was pants. In terms of a game, Battlefield 3 is far superior. But Crytek have gone down another avenue where they built their own engine from scratch with the ability to then allow modders and also to license it out as well. Whereas DICE has decided to keep everything tightened in, and they've only allowed the technology out to other developers within EA. So it does make you wonder how far back the decision not to release mod tools was actually taken. And it also makes you wonder, why would they use middleware if they're not capable of developing in-house? So it's a curious decision to me, and especially when you put it next to what Crytek's done. It'd be interesting to hear from someone from DICE if they've actually got an explanation for that one. The third argument is, to me, the strongest of the 3, and the one that's most likely to derail my opinion on the fact that yes, DICE's decision was catastrophic. Now that argument is essentially Crytek is an independent company developer, DICE is owned by EA. Now when you look at it in those stark terms, you think, well, how can you compare Crytek and DICE to two completely different entities? Therefore we must blame EA. I think that's wrong, and I'll explain to you why. EA since 2004 has been the publisher for Crytek's games, Crysis, Crysis 2 and the upcoming Crysis 3. It's standard practice in the industry for the publisher to invest money into the developer to help them develop the game. It's also standard practice in the industry for the publisher to have some form of oversight and a degree of decision-making capability on the game. And think about this for a second. I don't think EA is going to allow Crytek to develop Crysis, or especially Crysis 2, without any form of input whatsoever. So we know that EA has had an influence and input into Crysis 2. Obviously EA owns DICE, but DICE is, I think, a semi-independent business unit. It makes a lot of its own decisions. So on the one hand you have EA, which does have influence over Crytek, and EA, which obviously has influence over DICE. Which is why my opinion is very much that the decisions on mod tools in DICE, or rather for Battlefield 3, were made by DICE. The decisions again on mod tools for Crysis were made by Crytek. And this is why I don't think that EA can hold the blame, or at least the vast majority of the blame for this. I firmly believe that DICE made the decision to use middleware and whatever the decisions that they've made, and that is what's led to no mod tools for Battlefield 3. Obviously EA will have had some kind of influence on that, but I don't believe that they're at fault. I believe that the people who are running DICE, Patrick Back and all his companions, are the ones that have taken that decision. And that is my reasoning behind thinking that DICE are at fault, not EA. Now I know a lot of people have turned around and said, well, EA owns DICE, therefore they're basically the same thing. And to a certain degree that's true. But within corporates you often have independent business units. I know, I've worked for them. And DICE, from what I can see and from what I've heard, is pretty semi-independent. Although it's owned by EA, it makes a lot of its own decisions. And I think they've made the decision in this case. Will I ever find out the truth of this? Probably not. Not unless an insider drops me a quick mail or gives me a call. But that is my firm belief on that. So, just to summarise that point, I do believe that it was Crytek's decision to build their engine from the ground up with the intention of licensing and providing tools for modders. And I think it was DICE's, not EA's, decision to not allow BF3 to be modded and to take decisions which make it technically or legally impossible for BF3 to be modded. Now that's my feedback on the three main points that you, the community, brought back from the last video. And again, I'd love to hear from you. I'd really like to know what your opinion on these are. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? I'm happy for positive or negative feedback as long as it's constructive. So as you've seen to have done pretty much from the first video, please carry on giving me constructive feedback and criticism. It's fantastic. It makes me thrive. Hopefully it makes these digests a little bit better. Please let me have your feedback. Now one thing I do want to share with you before I get to the mod that I mentioned is this week I've been doing a lot of research on Crytek. It's surprising just how far that they have gone to allow modders to be able to create games, mods and maps. You have of course a sandbox editor, which is the same editor that the guys at Crytek use when developing their game and their maps. You can download that completely for free. If you need a copy of Crysis 2 to be able to use it, and if you want to use the original sandbox you need the original Crysis, but as long as you've got that you can go out and develop your own mods for free, you can go out and develop your own maps and pretty much do what you want. They've even started releasing some assets which you can import into programs such as Mayor or Mike so that you can change them yourself, maybe reskin them, maybe change them a little bit and then import them into Sandbox and put them in your own mods. They're really going out of their way to be able to support that community. But one other thing which I stumbled across was Crytek's licensing attitude. Now let's say for example that you're a small team, maybe 2 or 3 developers. You want to develop a game based on CryEngine 3. You can quite happily do that, commercialize and sell your game, and you can sign an agreement with Crytek that says they take 20% of the revenue, but that's it, there's nothing else. So you can sit for a year and develop your game, and then if you sell, well, $1 million or whatever, they get 20%, you get the rest, you've got no other licensing cost. Or if you're a bigger developer, then you can talk to Crytek about a different type of license. They're very open about this, and if you go onto their website, you will see they've got the details of how they're licensing. So if you've ever thought about modding something, or ever thought about creating a map for yourself or a game, and you've got Crysis 2, crack Sandbox 2 open, download it, have a look at it, have a play. It's a superb tool to use. See what you can come up with. If you've ever had the buzz for modding, go ahead. And as the games I showed you last week, especially MechWarrior Online, which you'd never believe was based on the same engine as Crysis 2, that shows you that you can take this engine to some fantastic places and do some amazing things with it. So that's just a little section on Crytek and how they're handling modding and licensing, just in case you're interested in that kind of thing. Now before I talk about the mod that I mentioned right at the beginning of the video, I want to give a quick shout out to the guys at Catastrophic. First of all, whoever put up the previous digest on your forum, thank you very much, greatly appreciate it. But I'd also like to make a suggestion to you. Why don't you guys put together some kind of large-scale competition? Not clan versus clan, but like BF3 tournament or global conflict do it, where you have 2 sides made up of several clans and players, and each of them fight it out every week. If you do something like that, I suspect you would have quite a lot of people playing your mod. And the other thing, I actually did go ahead and test this week. You can download the trial version of Crysis Wars completely for free. You can install that, download and install Casus Belli, and you can go and play it for no cost whatsoever. As I say, I tested this out this week. I've been on the official Casus Belli server for a little while. It's a great game, check it out, and I say best thing is you can do it for free. One thing which I may have said last week which does need a correction is that MechWarrior Living Legends also uses Crysis Wars, but you need the paid version of that to be able to use it because you need the CD key. So if you are wanting to play MechWarrior Living Legends, please note you need the Crysis Wars paid version. So what's this mod that I mentioned at the beginning? Well, it's a mod made or in production by a website called Black Hole Arts. There are several Mordorians, whatever the right word is, on there. Some of them have actually been kicked off EA UK's BF3 forum, and they seem to have coagulated and coalesced in Black Hole Arts. They're putting together a near future mod using, dare I say it, the Crysis, or rather Crytek 3 engine. Again, sandbox editor, completely free. If you've got Crysis 2, you can go and download it right now. They're looking for talent, but they're also looking for people who've got more enthusiasm at this point than skill. So if you're looking to get into modding, or you want to find out what it's all about, or you want to learn some skills, have a look at these guys. I'll put the link into the description for this video. They're looking for people right now. There seems to be a good group of guys who've got their heads screwed on. As with all amateur mods, it will no doubt take a long time to come to fruition. It may not even come to fruition, and that's an important point because most amateur started mods don't finish. However, if you want to learn some skills, if you want to put your work towards something constructive, check them out, Black Hole Arts. Tell them what you want to do, see if you can join, let me know how it gets on, please. As I say, I welcome all feedback. Now, on the topic of feedback, that's the end of this digest. I do hope that you've enjoyed it. I do hope you'll provide feedback. If you've liked this video, please like it on YouTube. If you've really liked it, please either subscribe to me on YouTube or like my Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Phyrefli. You'll probably also find this video up on my website as well, which is, as I always say, is narcissistically called Phyrefli.com. Please let me have your feedback. Look forward to it. I know these are contentious issues. I know that a lot of people disagree with the stance I'm taking, that DICE is wrong and not EA in this one, and I appreciate the feedback that you give. As always, enjoy your gaming. Take care.